Welcome to the NRT Now podcast, giving you the latest in Christian music news, topics, and artist interviews directly from the largest Christian music site online, newreleasetoday.com. Now, here's your host, Jake.
Hey y'all, welcome to episode 36. And I know I've been saying this a lot lately, but I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time up front here. The episode's going to be just a shade longer than our normal 30-ish minute target. And the conversation I had with Colton Dixon was a lot of fun and had some really awesome stuff in it. And quite honestly, I just don't want to get in the way of it. So I just want to stop in and say, hey, hope y'all are doing well. And just thank you for your support. Thank you for listening. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe or follow. I think Apple Podcast and Spotify have two different terms for it. But whatever that looks like, if you wouldn't mind just giving us the follow there. And I know that everything's just really funny right now, and some of the podcasts that I've listened to on the way to work, in the car, on a commute, now that I don't have that because working from home with COVID, listening to podcasts looks all different. So like I said, I know what it is to listen to podcasts and to have all that just shifted. So we really appreciate your support and just appreciate you spending the time with us here. So I also wanted to talk a little bit about the title for this episode. I went through a few different ones. I really couldn't decide. And at the last minute, I went with Outside Our Own Walls. And I really think that it summarizes a good majority of the conversation with Colton here. We as humans love to put up walls, whether it's walls around our emotions, we put walls around our church, around our faith, around our thoughts, our politics, our whatever it is. And I think there's real power once we start walking outside of the walls that we build. And when we're talking about marriage, when we start walking outside those walls, we're able to connect and work through issues that we have, in our marriage. And when we start to walk outside those walls, just with our faith and what we think and all that kind of stuff, without getting too far into what's going on in the world and the U.S. right now, we really start to see things differently. And then we can start being a miracle. We can start helping people through things that we've gone through in our own life. And now that we're walking outside of our own walls, we can open up and help guide in a godly, loving way these people who need that help walking through. And that's not saying that we have to agree with everything outside our own walls. That doesn't mean that we have to sway whatever way the wind blows. But it gives us a different perspective, and then we're able to start having those conversations, and we're able to just really be the hands and feet of God, of Jesus in our world. And we can't do that behind our own walls. So I really hope that you enjoy this conversation that I had with Colton Dixon just as much as I did. And without further ado, here we go. All right. Hey, guys, we are hanging out with Colton Dixon here. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us for a bit, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It's going to be fun.
So a lot of changes coming your way. And one thing that I am totally excited for you, because I'm just this sappy guy like this, is twin girls.
Twin girls. Yeah, man. We can't wait. Due date is like mid-August, so we are in full prep mode right now. It's exciting, man. Can't wait.
And as a dad of two girls, and we joke that they're twins 9 years apart because they are just the same kid almost. Minor differences, but it's almost like a carbon copy. I mean, points for consistency, I guess.
Yeah.
But twins at the same time, that was actually one of the things that we were really worried about because of all the twins in our family.
It's funny. My grandmother's a twin, and way down the line, my wife has some twins in her family. But we hear they're identical twins. So we hear that identical means it's not genetic. It's just happenstance. But fraternal is when you get into the genetic side of things. So We don't know. All we know is we somehow got the 2-for-1 coupon. So
Yeah.
here we are.
That's awesome. So did you guys find out early on, or was it kind of a surprise down the middle?
It was definitely a surprise. Honestly, finding out we were pregnant was kind of a surprise. We never like officially sat down and had the "Are you ready?" conversation. So yeah, finding out Annie was pregnant was already a surprise. And then we waited a little bit to go in for our first ultrasound. So it was like 12, 13 weeks. We thought it was just
Wow.
one baby. So that was a crazy day. We were told that we might find out the gender of our single baby that day. And instead, we did not find out the gender of either of our two babies that day. So it was crazy, but it's good, man. What a blessing. So we're pumped.
One way or the other, you got a surprise that day.
Yes. Yeah, we definitely did. Got thrown a curveball, but it was good. It was good. My wife got nervous laughter. She was like laugh crying, and I had to sit down. I thought I was going to be sick.
When we just found out that we're pregnant with our first one, we were doing that first ultrasound, and we asked, is there just one? With real concern. She
There's
looked
just
at
one
us
left.
like, why are you even asking? We started going like, okay, well, her brothers are twins, my dads are twins. We started listing off all the twins in the family, and the ultrasound tech
Sure.
was like, okay, let's find out.
Man, yeah, our tech, she asked us if we had been in to see the doctor yet, and it was kind of like something was not normal in her tone. So we were kind of like a little bummed. We were like, "Oh no!" So we thought something was like bad wrong. And then she's like, "I don't know how to tell you this, but there's two of them in there." We're like, "Ah, what? That's crazy." Yeah, almost threw up, but it was good.
It's hard enough to prepare for your first one, and then I can't imagine just the twins. Like all of a sudden, you're preparing to be a first time parent, and
I've had people comment on that. They're like, actually, it's probably best that, like, if you guys decide to have another one, you don't know the difference between one or two at once. So you're not going to know the difference. I'm like, that's true. I feel like there's a negative connotation attached to that, but I guess that's true.
that's one way of looking at it, I guess. But hey, at least it gave you guys each a role to play in the gender reveal.
Yes, that is true. Yeah, we got to shoot off two cannons instead of one. So
Oh, that's so awesome. So one of the things that it's kind of hit or miss for new dads, just wanted to make sure that you have good preparation for the dad jokes. Do you have good
please.
training with that? I mean, that's the important question here.
My father-in-law has got some, whenever I say really good, I actually mean they're actually pretty funny, but they are true and true dad jokes. So yeah, like, what do you call a guy with no arms or no legs?
Bob?
Matt.
Oh,
What do you call a guy with no arms or no legs in the water?
Bob.
Bob. Yeah.
I was a little
Um,
ahead of you. I'm sorry.
you were a little ahead of me, but yeah, I've gotten some experience. I probably need to brush up on them though. I've got a couple years before the girls will start understanding me. So, but yeah, I'll need to take a class.
See, that's the most important thing. I mean, there's nothing better than your daughter rolling her eyes at you because you just laid on the worst dad joke ever.
Looking forward to that day.
Or the maniacal laughter when you actually hit one that lands. So, my daughter's favorite one, I mean, this is great for a Christian podcast, but my daughter's favorite dad joke ever is, why do ducks have tails? To cover their butt quack.
That's awesome.
I mean,
That's awesome.
that's her number one favorite. Never fails. The rollover laughter is like nothing better.
That is fantastic. I'm a big Batman fan, and I heard a really good Batman dad joke the other day. It was, what do you call Batman who skips church?
What's that?
Christian Bale.
Oh, no. Oh, that's terrible. That's amazing, but that's terrible.
Agreed. It's terrible, and it's also very clever.
Yes. Oh, man.
Can't take credit for that one, but yeah, it's pretty good.
I think we could do like a whole podcast on just nothing
Probably
but dad
could.
jokes.
It's true.
Like a dad joke 101 training course, boot camp. Oh, man. But the awesome thing about this, and one thing that we found through our journey and through the podcast, we've walked through a lot of that journey, is just any baby, anything is just a miracle. And yes, I'm
Mhm.
actually have a purpose for this. Seems like
Pun
there's,
intended.
yeah, seems like there's a lead into this somewhere. Maybe it's a song by this guy, Colton Dixon, I think is the guy's name, something like that. But
That's awesome.
that's what I love about just every pregnancy is just every time it's just a miracle. And doesn't
Yeah,
matter if you have an easy time of it, doesn't matter if you have a hard time of it. I mean, if you just think about the concept and just how God knits every baby in their mother's womb, I mean, it's just incredible.
it really is. I feel like getting pregnant is something that a lot of people maybe take for granted. Like we have friends who have tried and tried and tried, and they haven't been successful yet. They're waiting
Yeah.
on the miracle. But yeah, so when we got pregnant, like I said, it was kind of a surprise. I'm thankful we didn't have to go through that season, but also there is that there's an opportunity to miss what God has done. So that's kind of the inspiration for that song Miracles. Is I was in a season of being forced to slow down a bit, and I started just realizing like, man, God really does work in the everyday things. And some people may call it coincidence, but man, I think God is working all this together for our good. And I think that's a miracle. I think getting pregnant and new life and birth, and I mean, are you kidding me? Like, it's crazy. I haven't experienced
Yeah.
all of it yet, but even just what I have experienced, it's a miracle. It's absolutely a blessing.
I mean, you just think about everything that has to go into the miracle of birth and how that grows. I mean, just from even
Yeah.
step one and just how the body was designed to protect this life that can't function on its own yet. And just
Yeah.
how the mother's body just miraculously works and just all the stuff that happens with the stuff through the umbilical cord. It feeds the baby. It provides antibodies. I mean, just everything that goes into it just blows my mind at just what a miracle that we just take for granted.
Agreed. I think whether you believe it's God or not, the people who say or believe in a Big Bang, I'm like, how?
Yeah.
Like even if you don't believe in God, someone designed this thing. Because
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way. Obviously, we believe it to be God, but still, like it blows my mind how people come up with theories. I'm like, really, you're gonna tell me? You look at creation, you look at yeah, like a mother and her body just knows what to do.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
There's just so much to it. Like you said, there has to be a design somewhere. And I know we're in an age of science and we know all these things. It just boggles my mind just how much of this stuff just has to truly fall into place and how much we just can't explain that it just happens. How can you not believe that miracles happen or there is a design or anything like that? I don't
Yeah,
understand personally.
same. I'm in the same boat.
Talking about miracles, you're talking about people believing that in coincidence, and I think it kind of ties back to that. We have to know everything, we have to understand everything. There has to be an explanation for it in
Sure.
our culture. Science is king and all that kind of stuff. And I think both as a church and as a people, we really kind of lose sight that miracles still happen. And I think a lot of times we have this mindset that miracles are either way on the spectrum of like curing cancer, that kind of a miracle, or
Sure.
they're just a remnant of biblical times that just doesn't apply to today. And
Right.
I don't know, like what you're talking about, just some of these coincidence. Wow, apparently that's a hard word.
Coincidi?
That's the plural of coincidence. We're coining that right now.
Nice.
But we talk about coincidence, but man, just miracles in everyday life. I mean, I think we've kind of lost that awe of God and how miracles look different because we understand more today, but they're still very
Sure.
real and very present in today's culture as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think a lot of people write them off as it's kind of what the chorus of my song says. Like, you can say the stars align, but I know that it's more than just timing. Like, I know that there's someone behind this, and I'm going to give credit where credit's due. But you're right. Some people are like, well, that's Old Testament times or whatever. I'm like, no, like God is still in the business of doing miracles. I'm like, you can miss it.
Yep.
He's a gentleman. He's not going to like shove it in your face, but so you can absolutely miss it. But the cool thing about it is he wants to use us to be a part of the miracle. Like he wants to use us to advance the kingdom, and getting a little preachy, but you can miss it. I know I've missed it a lot of times and I don't want to miss it anymore. So yeah, hopefully miracles is one of those encouragements to be like, hey, like there's stuff that happens every single day. We just have to stop long enough and open our eyes wide enough to appreciate them. But yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And also on this album is a love song to Annie.
yeah.
And I mean, why did it take you so long to write a love song? Is there some? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, that's actually that's a very viable question. There's so much pressure when you're a musician because like you write a love song and then you put it out. What if the love song's not very good? Does that reflect the way you feel about that person? Yes, it absolutely does. So it took me a long time to get one right, but yeah, man, it's one of my favorite songs on the project. I have this cool opportunity in front of me signing with actually a mainstream record label, which I never thought I would do. I thought I did the American Idol thing, and it was very clear that I was supposed to be with Capitol Records, and so that's what I did. And we put out 3 records together, and then the American Idol deal ended, which meant the record label went away as well. So kind of a scary time for me. But during that season, Atlantic Records came to the table, and we just had so much peace about it. The thing we were most excited about is like, okay, out of however many people we have in the world, a lot of people don't go to church and a lot of people don't listen to Christian music. So how can we reach those people? You know, because we've been targeting Christian music and church, and I still believe in it. But man, I want to go outside of that because those people need love too. So writing a love song was kind of like an opportunity to it kind of opened doors for some opportunities outside of the church, and it's something that's really real and something that my wife and I feel about each other. It's like, you know what, no matter what life throws at us, we're never going to stop choosing to love one another. It's really simple. It's kind of just like a fun vibey song to listen to, but there's a lot of depth for her and I. We got to film a music video for it as well. We
so
took
cool.
like footage of us like at our wedding and honeymoon and our first ultrasound. We have video of that in there as
Wow.
well. So we were like using projections of that, and I was singing the song. But it's so cool that we were able to share our story in hopes to inspire and encourage other couples and other marriages that are maybe having a rough time or maybe just need that spark or whatever it is. But yeah, I'm excited to use my platform to reach those people as well. So Can't Quit You is just one of those songs that I think we're going to get the opportunity to do that.
That's so awesome. And what you're talking about, just people outside of the church, I really love that. You know, I think there's a very good place in the church, but I think there's a very good place to reach that as well. And what we're seeing today, just everything that's going on is just bananas.
It's bananas.
I'm going to bring that word back, banana.
Do it. Come on, man.
But I mean, I think that's a lot of it, you know, as a church right now, so many churches and just so many people in churches are country clubbing it. You know, this is our group. This is what it takes to be in this group. This is how we believe, you know, all that. And I think the church as a whole, especially the American church, just really has a hard time really breaking out of that mold and just really loving people that aren't a part of the country club, that think a little bit differently. You know, they may like a glass of whiskey at the end of the night or, you know, whatever it is.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, that doesn't make you any less Christian or anything like that. But, you know, I think that's an area that we just have not done a very good job of, you know, over the past little while here.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've done this. I've gotten comfortable. You look at Jesus and his disciples, and most of the time it was not comfortable. And not always in a bad way, but I feel like Jesus was always just pushing them to be the best that they could be, or he was confronting their ideologies or whatever it was. He's like, just a few days ago, I read the story of I'm Going Through the Bait of Satan by John Bevere. It's an amazing book if you haven't read it. It's about being offended. and not allowing yourself to be offended. But they arrive in the city and they ask Jesus and his disciples to pay the temple tax. And Jesus is kind of like, am I not above this? Like, is my Father not God in heaven, But he told Peter's like, go out, cast your hook. The first fish that you catch will have however much money in his mouth to pay the temple tax. Miracle. But he also, like, he didn't get offended. And I feel like it's really easy to point a finger at the church or a bigger group of people, but change starts with all of us as individuals. So, yeah, I think if we want to see a change or if we want to see revival, then we need to point the finger at us and say, okay, well, what am I doing to change?
Yep.
What am I doing? And that's with anything. Man, not trying to open up a can of worms here, but even just with what's going on with Black Lives Matter right now, it's crazy. I've seen so many videos and honestly, like at the beginning of this, it was easy just to think, oh, well, it's fine. Like, sure, some of that still exists, but overall it's fine. But here we are. And really, I feel like our country and even around the world, we've kind of just, it's out of sight, out of mind, kind of put it on the back burner. I can be bad about that in dealing with stuff, whether it's hard conversations or whatever. You put it on the back burner and just hope it gets taken care of. But here we are. And man, I think it's so important, instead of looking at maybe how some people are going at it the wrong way or whatever it is, just look at me and go, okay, how can I change and how can I learn from this and how can I treat this community better and have a better understanding of what they've gone through for years and years and years and years. I know that's a very sensitive topic right now, but I think it's something that needs to be talked about. Again, we're Caucasian males and we live in the United States of America. I think we take the privilege of freedom for granted a lot. I'll speak for myself. I know that I do. So if for no other reason or for no other purpose than me just having a better understanding comes out of all this, I think that's great. But yeah, even as it applies to the church, tangent, sorry. Even as it applies to the church, like, change starts with all of us individually. If you want to see change, then I think we need to be the ones out there on the front lines, instead of sitting on our heels going, well, I wish it was different. I wish it was this way. It's like, you can make it better,
Absolutely. And I wouldn't even call that tangent, but I mean, what you're saying there is conversations. And I think that's what we have a hard time with. And especially right now with social media. I mean, just some of the stuff that I'm seeing on social media from both sides is like, there's no real conversations about it on either side of a line. I mean, it doesn't matter what we're talking about. If we're talking about Black Lives Matter that's going on right now, the coronavirus stuff, whether you think it's as bad as it is or not. I've seen a lot of stuff around that. Republican versus Democrat. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we just stand on either side of a line and we just start throwing crap at each other. And there's not a whole lot of conversation. And like, that's also in the church as well, both on some of these topics, but just as a whole, somebody walking in the door that's hurting, and I'm not saying that every church is like this, but, just kind of where the church as a whole in America, I feel like sometimes gets to is, we don't have the conversations with these people. It's, here's what you do, here's what we believe, and this is how you should start thinking and all that, and then just blend into our stuff. Sometimes we lose that reach of listen, have the conversation, find how people are hurting and how we walk alongside them and just speak the love of God into them in their situations.
Yeah, we need to drop our agendas. Whenever both parties come with an agenda, you're thinking about what you're going to say as the other person is talking, and that's not, you're right, that's not a conversation. I think it's Proverbs, but a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up hatred. It's like, man, just be kind. Like, hear out the other side. Even if you don't agree with them, that's okay. They have a right to their opinion. We live in the United States of America, whether that's in church or outside the church, like, they're entitled to their opinion. And if you don't agree with it, pray for them. Like, It's
Yep.
not hard.
Yeah.
It can be hard to practice, but when you boil it down, it's really not a complicated thing.
And that's the same thing, bringing it back to your love song. I mean, that's that same concept, just on a very micro level, just between two people, and just that same
Yeah.
thing, conversations, not agendas.
Yeah, again, it's no matter what we face, good, bad, and ugly, we're not gonna stop choosing to love, period. It's like, man, no matter what it looks like, I just can't quit loving you.
Yep.
Just can't do it. So I think if we embrace that idea, man, would things look different, I think. But we'll see.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it shouldn't be tough. Love God, love people. I mean, that's
Pretty simple.
theoretically, but
Yeah.
like you said,
It can be hard sometimes, but you know what? We're not always going to get it right. But I think the biggest thing is just owning it when you don't and move forward, get better.
so I mean, I'm very excited that you have the opportunity to take that, not just stay within the four walls of kind of the Christian, but just step outside of that. And that's something that I wish, or that I hope that on Christian music that we can help support and push as well. Is you don't have to be a Christian artist, quote unquote. You don't have to be signed with a Christian label. That we're able to walk outside of this boundary here and just reach that side of life as well.
Yeah, I think Jesus did it best. You didn't always find him in the temple. When you did, he was honestly rebuking most of the people
Yeah.
in the temple, or challenging their ideas, whatever. But man, he spent so much time where the people are, where the wild things are, which is so cool to me that he was able to relate and meet them where they are and still challenge them. Like, we would even be on tour with Toby Mac or with whoever, and there'd be people protesting outside that are Christians. And I'm like, you know what we do, right? It's not like Marilyn Manson is playing that night,
Yeah.
It's like Toby Mac. I don't think that's the way to do it. If you disagree with something, whatever, you can still love on someone and establish a relationship. And when you do that, there's a security there, like any relationship. And then a conversation can be had, or question. They'll ask the questions.
Yep.
I've found that true in my own life. Like, man, when you establish relationship, they'll see that you live life differently. So they'll just ask questions because they're curious. But yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
This is really good. I'm not sure where to go now, but this is good.
Well, I mean, I'll just say, just to be a little sappy for the moment, because I can. But I really appreciate that you're able to do interviews with people and all these national high profile organizations and all that. And then you talk to some schmuck down in Texas like this, for a podcast. I mean, for someone who is on this side of life, I mean, that's something that says a lot to me personally, that you can range all the way from the biggest to this here as well. And that your message is still the same about Jesus and still about the faith. That's something that I very much respect and appreciate from what I get to do on this side of life.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'm honored to be a part of this. Yeah, every interview matters, no matter who it's with. I try and treat them all the same. There's just people looking for answers, especially in today's society. Wow. So yeah, we have an opportunity to spread some love and spread some Jesus. So let's do it.
So one of the things I wanted to talk a little bit about is, you're talking about that period where you had to pause. And
Yeah.
I just want to talk a little bit about that time. I mean, you've gone from American Idol and amazing hairdos that I could never ever pull off in my lifetime to where we're at today. Like I said, I'm kind of disappointed. Like the hair's only 4 inches high.
I know. It's a little more manageable during the quarantine season to have it shorter. Yeah, man. When the American Idol deal ended and the record label went away, it was a scary time. As a musician, it kind of felt like I lost my job. So it was in that season of unknown that a lot of these songs were written. So I think it's really cool that God used that season that I was in, and then we released these songs in this, man, 2020. What is going on?
I know, right?
But
Jumanji, that's what's going on.
feels like it some days. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. It wasn't always easy. But I think every day we had an opportunity to choose faith over fear. We didn't always make the right decision. But man, my wife said something that was so good. She said, "This may seem like a setback, but what if God is actually setting you up for what's next?" I like chewed on that for a couple days. I'm like, wow, that's really good. Because you're right. This definitely seems like a setback. It feels like we took 20 leaps backwards. But I realized I had such a tight grip on my security in having a record label and thinking everything was going to be fine. I mean, American Idol was a really fun season and it kind of catapulted me into the Christian music scene. And man, I did the tours and all the things, but nothing's promised or guaranteed. And man, the music business is so fickle. Just like your emotions are so fickle. So you don't need to put your eggs in those kinds of baskets. But yeah, it was kind of that season of going, okay, without this, who am I? I think God taught me a lot about identity during that season. It's funny when you put out a record called Identity, then you have to practice what you preach.
I wasn't going to go there, but thanks for taking that.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's we call that a slice of humble pie right there. But it was good though. I learned a lot, and yeah, it was whenever I started to let go and have this posture of open hands. Like, all right, God, like I don't know what you're up to. I don't know if music is even it in the future, but I'm ready for whatever you have. And it wasn't long that the Atlantic Records thing came to the table and just blew our minds. I mean, Coldplay and Ed Sheeran, and I mean, what? Like what? I don't even know why they would be interested in me. I really don't. But they were. And I think that was just God's favor, honestly. That's the only reasonable explanation is God prepared the way for me to walk in, and I had favor with these people and they believe in what I do. It's really amazing. Even if they don't believe in what I believe, they believe in what I do.
Yep.
I don't know how those don't coincide, but I think it's awesome. It's a great opportunity. So we've been running with that. But yeah, it's the waiting season is not always a fun season, but I think you can kind of like this quarantine season. You can look at it and go, I'm ready for this to be over. I've completed Netflix as of yesterday, just like whatever. Or you can look at it as an opportunity to grow and an opportunity to like come out of this thing better than we were when we started. And that's kind of the mentality that my wife and I adapted 3 years ago. It's like, you know what? No matter what happens, we're going to be better because of it, because God's plans are not to harm us, but they are to give us a hope and a future. So we're going to stand on that. And that's what we're going to put our faith to. And his word never returns void. So here we are. It's awesome.
From what we see on this side, I mean, I definitely noticed that you had that pause. And I think, a lot of people through the music industry noticed that pause, for whatever the reasons. And after listening to this EP, to me, you just came back stronger through all this. I mean, it's just a killer EP.
Thanks, man.
Is it an EP?
Yes.
Okay. See, I should be better at this, but I'm not. Like, if EPs, album titles, like
I've called it all of it. I've record, album, EP. It's no worries. I get it.
Just the musicality, the lyrics. I mean, just a very solid album from top to bottom.
Really appreciate that.
And so what you're talking about, just setting up for something stronger. Don't you hate it when our wives are right like that? I mean, they just speak that wisdom in, and you're just like,
You don't always like it, but man, I'm not going to say I hate it because I love the result of it. But yeah, during the moment, you're just kind of like, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe hate is not the right word, but you hear something like that, and you're just like, that's not what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear something different.
Yeah, not what we wanted to hear. It's what we needed to hear, but not what we wanted to hear. Sign of a good wife.
Yes. I mean, that's how you know you married the good one, right? Like,
that's right. That is right.
Oh, mercy. I'm kind of jealous that you had a little bit of a head start on this whole quarantine thing. No, not jealous, but oh man. I mean, just what you're talking about, that period of waiting and working through this. I mean, you were ready for this quarantine.
I hadn't really thought of it like that. We just had perspective. And I think a lot of God's word is about perspective. Like you can have two people going through the exact same thing, but one looks really happy and the other one looks miserable. And the only difference is perspective. So you're right. We kind of had our own little, I mean, we weren't necessarily like secluded or quarantined, whatever. But the unknown of not knowing if our job was there or that kind of thing was very much real to us, a few years ago. But you're right. It was a perspective shift in not placing my identity in what I do, but who I am and whose I am, and knowing that he's going to take care of us. And I know that sounds like I'm oversimplifying things, but really not. I think we overcomplicate God's word a lot, and it doesn't mean we don't use our brain.
Yeah.
It's so funny to me that some people make stupid decisions and then they go, well, God is just trying to teach me a lesson. I'm like, yeah, he also gave us free will, and you are not being the smartest person with your free will choices here. But anyway, but yeah, so
I put it a little bit more bluntly. It's like God's trying to teach you a lesson to not be stupid. Like that's a valid
can't
lesson.
fix stupid. But yeah, so we kind of had a little mini season of what this quarantine season has been for a lot of people. But I'm really glad because God used it to breathe these songs through me, and it came out right smack dab in the middle of this quarantine season. So I'm so thankful that through my own experience, like I was able to like find some of the answers. God showed me some of the answers and revealed some things to me that I think a lot of us needed during this season. So yeah.
And I say that I think it's biblical somewhere, and that's probably one of my weakest points is pulling out verses. Like you're sitting here pulling out verses, and I'm like I'm bad at that.
I know what the word says. I need to get better about, what do you call it? This is terrible. Like, where in the Bible it is. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Citation.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's somewhere in First Opinions, something. But
that's hilarious. I'm going to have to use that. Dad joke.
Yeah, absolutely. But is that a dad joke or is that a pastor joke or is that like a Christian joke? No, it's not mutually exclusive. Yeah.
Youth pastor joke. That's what that is.
There you go.
Yeah.
But, it talks about leading the way for others. You go through things and you're able to help your brothers on the other side of that. And what you're talking about that, I mean, you went through that season before all of us went through the season, before we went through this quarantine season. And that's something that, through this EP and all that, we're able to that you're able to lead others through the season where, I mean, everything's just up in the air for people and so many people all at the same time.
Yeah. That's what God does for us every time. He's not only like walking alongside with us during our valley, whatever you want to call it, but he's also waiting on the other side, cheering us on, saying, hey, I see the end. It's going to get better. Like you're going to make it. So just keep having faith. Just trust me. Part of my testimony is that, like, hey, this type of thing happened to me kind of a few years ago. I made it. Like, it's possible. You can do this. And I hope that's reflected in my songs. But yeah, that's what God does each and every time we face something hard. He's like, you know what? I get it. It doesn't look easy. Choosing faith over fear is probably the harder choice right now. But just do it. Just trust me. Because I'm waiting at the finish line and I know what's possible. How cool is it that we have a God who's like our number one cheerleader? It's really cool.
Yeah.
So thankful.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like he's sitting up there figuring out some way to punish us or to just figure out how he can get us. He is our biggest cheerleader. And, like I said, sometimes what we're talking about with miracles way back when is he uses people sometimes. Like this, you have the experience so you can lead your brother through when he walks through that same thing. Like the same thing with miracles. Sometimes he uses people for miracles. Sometimes it's medicine. Sometimes it's somebody showing up at the right time. I think the biggest thing is he uses people and he uses our Christian brothers and sisters. Well, I mean, not even just Christian brothers and sisters, but he uses other people to help with that, to help us get through.
Yeah, God uses our testimony. And I think a lot of people think, oh, like, well, I haven't been through X, Y, or Z. So, whatever. It's like, man, that's a testimony in and of itself. Again, I need to get better about the citation thing. But God's word says we will overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So it's not just by what Jesus did, even though I feel like it should be. but he also puts emphasis on our testimony. So when we share and we're like, hey, I was in a rough season, God totally brought me out of it, and I'm just seeing the fruit of it now, that encourages someone else to like continue on in their journey. That's how it works.
Yep.
That's what motivational speaking is.
Yeah.
No matter who it is, whether it's Dave Ramsey or whoever, like you're like, man, you foreclosed, you were bankrupt, and now like you own this multi-million-dollar business teaching people finances. That's incredible. That's like what motivates people. It's like, I can do it. So yeah, like never think that your testimony isn't worth something, because you very easily could be encouraging someone to keep fighting or to keep choosing faith over fear. And I think we need more of that. So speak up.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, man, I can't think of any better way to end a podcast. That's a word to end on right there.
Awesome. Appreciate that, man.
Oh.
Dude, this has been really fun.
It has. Appreciate you just hanging out with us for a while. And like I said,
Yeah.
a lot of fun. We got some good dad jokes in there.
Yes, we did. Maybe one too many, but
Probably.
I need to work on mine a little bit.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks a bunch for hanging out with us.
Yeah, man, of course. Hope you have a blessed day. Hope you guys stay safe out there. Crazy world right now, but pray. We need to pray.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but awesome. Thanks again, man.